This slightly beat up dark blue 2005 Scion XB was the first new car I ever purchased 13 years ago. In those 13 years, this car has taken me on several cross-country trips. It's slogged through bumper-to-bumper Los Angeles traffic. It's been my chariot to and from work thousands of times, and it's witnessed my life change dramatically. When I first saw the Scion XB hit US shores, I knew that I had to have one of these cars. I had long been a fan of small Japanese domestic market cars, as they were just so different than everything available in the United States. I was instantly a fan of the Toyota BB, the original incarnation of the Scion XB. The XB was Toyota's first vehicle with the Scion brand name. Their marketing of the Scion brand was a bit too boy racer for my taste, but to be able to own this unique box on wheels was totally worth it. Today, XBs are an incredibly common sight rolling around American thoroughfares. But when it first rolled into US Toyota dealers, the XB was remarkably different than anything else on our roads. Cars were boring in 2003. The XB's boxy shape, deceptively spacious interior, standard features, and no haggle pricing were a breath of fresh air. And buyers noticed. Nearly 170,000 of these vehicles were sold in the US for model years 2004 to 2006. I was able to snag this dark blue car for just under $15,000, and that was way back in 2005. All right, let's talk a little bit about the interior of this car. I'm nearly 6'4", and I have 6 inches from my head to the ceiling. This car is so incredibly spacious. The other thing that I love is the incredible visibility. The windows are really big. There's no real blind spots. You can see out everywhere. It's awesome. And the driving position, it is very upright. It's very bus-like. There isn't much adjustability in the steering wheel. You can move it up and down a little bit. It does feel like you're driving a little tiny bus, but it's cool. This is the view from the driver's seat. And if you haven't sat in one of these cars before, you'll immediately notice that there are no gauges right in front of the steering wheel. Your gauges are up here in this pod, which seems weird at first, but it's kind of nice because you don't have to look so far down to see how fast you're going or to see what your RPMs are. Let's talk a little bit about how this car handles. Now, you wouldn't expect a car shaped like this, with wheels this small, with tires this crappy, to handle very well, and you'd be right. It doesn't. If you're not used to amazing handling cars, this is probably gonna feel just fine. It's small and maneuverable enough that you can zip around in traffic and have a little bit of fun. But if you're used to driving sports cars, cruising around in a Scion XB is gonna feel like driving a bar stool. With only 108 horsepower on tap, you constantly have the thing floored. It just doesn't really want to go. One of the reasons why I've kept this car for so long is just how incredibly reliable it is. This car has over 215,000 miles on the clock, and all I've ever done are oil changes, tires, and brakes. That's it. That's it, which is nuts. I've owned almost 40 cars, and I've never had a car that even comes close to the reliability of this Scion XB. Having owned a car for so long, I've started to entertain the strange notion that a car has a memory. I know that sounds weird, just stick with me here for a second. But just imagine for a moment that memories can be contained within a car. Over time, they get absorbed into the metal, the plastics, the upholstery, like a sponge. The dents and scratches that it receives transforms it into a moving storybook of remembrances. It provides little reminders of moments in your life. It was in this parking lot that my Scion received its first ever dent. I guess it's more like a ding. It's a pretty small dent. There it is. It was a coworker that dented the car, rubbed their fingers over the dent, and never admitted to it. I'm fairly certain I know who did it, but I never confronted her. I stopped by the hardware store because I was reminded of where these scratches in the headliner came from. Those marks in the headliner are from times when we loaded up our car with lumber when we were fixing up our house. And this grease stain's been there for like 7 years, and I still have no idea where it came from. In 2010, our dog Edison came down with an acute breathing problem, so we rushed him to the vet in our Scion. I drove as quickly as I could, running red lights as carefully as I could to get him to this emergency vet. They stabilized him and we went home for the night. Then we got the call that they had to revive him. I drove as fast as I could to get over here to be with him when he died. I don't even remember driving home. I don't even remember the next week. We loved that dog so much. So yeah, there were those brutally sad memories that I'll always associate with this car. But that said, there were a lot more happy memories that I can remember in this car. My wife and I made an epic 6,000-mile cross-country road trip in this Scion. We camped in Utah, we visited the majestic Zion National Park, and we spent hours exploring the otherworldly formations of Bryce Canyon. Nowadays, we don't drive the Scion as much as we used to. The paint has started to fade from baking in the hot California sun, but we hold on to this car because it's been the most reliable car I've ever owned. Just turn the key and go. Every car has stories to tell. Some memories will be forgotten. Some are inconsequential. Some will be remembered for the rest of your life. Some are heartbreaking. Some are life-changing. Soaked into the fabric, etched into the metal, are echoes of laughter, sadness, anger, and love. The dents and scars are reminders that our past is real. This blue box is just a car, but it is also a vessel where memories are stored. And if you allow it, a car can be a place to create new stories that you'll cherish forever. The past is always there, staring at you from afar. It shapes who we become, but it would be a travesty to let that control your present or your future. There's this great quote from David Benioff that maybe a few years ago I probably wouldn't have really understood, but now I can totally relate to it. There are moments in your life when you are truly and completely happy, and you remember to give thanks. Even as it happens, you are nostalgic for the moment, you are tucking it away in your scrapbook. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in a couple weeks.